Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us for this very important conversation tonight. Before we get started, we'd like to thank our partners and sponsors for this event. We'd like to thank the Indie Black Millennials, Hello App, Power for collaborating to organize such an important conversation. Um, More of all, we'd like to thank the Indianapolis Recorder for providing the platform and the environment for us to organize and put this conversation together. The Indianapolis Recorder just turned 125 years old this year, and over 125 years, I've read stories of soldiers coming home from World War II, read stories, archive stories from the Civil Rights era, and today the recorder continues their legacy of covering our community and telling the story of our community from the perspective of the community by the way they've reported everything about COVID-19, everything about the economic downturn we face as a community, the racial tensions we've seen in our communities, and today reported more about the election process and the elections that are coming up. So we'd like to thank the recorder for the role they play in our community, for the way they work to bring us together as a community, and for the platform they give us to communicate and share our views. My name is Emil Ekio. I am the founder CEO of InnoPower. And our conversation today is really focused around the elections. I can't believe that we are 6 days away from what experts are calling the most important presidential elections of our lifetime. African American millennials play a significant role, will play a significant role in this election process. Um, they will also decide, I feel, who will be sitting in the White House in the next 4 years. 2020 has been an awakening for millennials. Millennials have led the charge to get us organized as a community to understand and to focus on the issues that are really affecting our community. We saw millennials lead the way through the racial tensions and stand up for young Black males who have been murdered. We saw millennials stand up and speak out against social justices and our injustices in our community. We saw millennials stand up and speak out against economic injustices in our communities. And we are seeing millennials again stand up and take the lead for how we should be looking to vote as a community and how we should be organizing to vote as a community. So today, we want to talk to these millennials. People use the term millennials kind of like this group of Americans, or this group has just landed from the moon and they just came on Earth and they just taken over. So we really want to hear from African American millennials from Indianapolis, professionals, and get their views about the election process, the election itself, and how millennials are going to vote this year. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists for tonight. Um, Marvin Smith is the membership committee chair for the exchange at the Indianapolis Urban League. Brandon Howell is president of NABA Inc. of Greater Indianapolis. Candy Akinro is attorney and member of Indie Black Millennials. And Jasmine Morris is creative director of the Indie Black Millennials. We would like for each of them to go through and just talk a little bit about their organizations, about themselves professionally, and just kind of introduce themselves to the community as a whole. We'll start with you, Candy. Can you please talk to us about the Indie Black Millennials and just give us kind of an overview of your background professionally as well? Thank you.
Thank you, Emil. My name is Kende Akinro. I go by Kenny mostly. I am an attorney, a newly inducted attorney in Indiana, and I am also a member of the Indie Black Millennial. Thank you. Indie Black Millennial is an organization that's bringing together young Black professionals, not just Black professionals, but young millennials who are professionals in Indiana together to network, fellowship, and to build up our community, not just professionally, but socially.
Jasmine Morris is creative director. Jasmine.
Yeah, thank you so much. So everything she said, and I think what I would add is that while we're also networking, we're also trying to talk about and bring experts to the table and bring people together to talk about issues that are impacting young Black professionals. You know, our experience as young Black professionals, as millennials, is unique, and not that it's necessarily different from what people may experience before and after us, but we can collectively come together and talk about issues that are unique to our time period and see what change we can make and just help ourselves. Outside of Indy Black Millennials, I work at a technology company called CBTS, working sales. And I also am a small business owner with my own digital marketing agency focused on small business and nonprofits.
Wow. Thank you. Marvin?
Good evening. How's it going? My name is Marvin Smith, and I am a part of the membership committee at the Indianapolis Exchange. The Indianapolis Exchange is part of the Indianapolis Urban League. We are the young professional leg of the Indianapolis Urban League. Our mission at the Exchange is to immobilize the next generation of leaders, being 21 to 40 years old, by helping support the Indianapolis Urban League to assist the African Americans and minority communities and disadvantaged communities, individuals, by achieving social and economic justice. We have a bunch of different programs to be able to help level the playing field, to be able to help educate you, just to be able to help better yourself, to be able to have a better economical and social chance. We have our meetings every third Monday of the month. Of course, everything is virtual right now, so it'd be real easy if you were curious to be able to tune in, but we can definitely talk about that later. Professionally, I am a automotive recruiter for Ivy Tech Community College. I recruit for two of the corporate programs that we have at Ivy Tech. But just outside of that, I definitely always like to promote Ivy Tech. We have 85 different programs at Ivy Tech currently that you can earn a 1-year certificate for free, absolutely for free, 100% for free. You got to fill out your FAFSA, but as long as you do not have a degree or a certification, if it's anybody that you know that needs to better themselves or wants to go back to school, or parents want to make them go back to school, definitely let me know, and I can definitely help you out with that application process.
Thank you, Marvin. Brandon?
Yeah, hey everyone, my name is Brendan Howell. I actually work in public accounting here in Indianapolis, but I also serve as the chapter president for the Greater Indy chapter of the National Association of Black Accountants, Inc. Very happy to be here and be a part of this important conversation, especially during this unprecedented times. But a little bit about NABA really quickly. So NABA is a nonprofit membership association similar to some of the other organizations that have been discussed. And we represent more than 200,000 Black professionals in the accounting, finance, consulting, and other related business professions. And overall, our mission is to address the professional needs of our members and our community to help build leaders that shape the future of the profession, that also have a commitment to inspire the same in their successors. And our vision essentially is to ensure that we all have a seat at the table and can provide opportunities and enrichment to the communities that we live in and to our members of the organization. And we do all of this by, living the principle of our motto, which is lifting as we climb, and we create opportunities for professional and personal and leadership development, as well as education and mentoring, just, trying to fill those gaps that may exist in our communities for our people in the professional world and as they make their way into college and into the profession too.
Wow. As you can see, we have an impressive group of young Black professionals. Before we get into our conversation about politics, what I would like to ask is, I'm intrigued by why so many Black professionals, millennials especially, organize and belong to groups and professional groups and are so willing to work together, right? I think a lot of what we've seen in older generations of African Americans is people say a lot of times it's so hard for us to come together and work together, but it seems as though millennials are able to organize and work together and belong in groups like this. Can you explain to our audience what that kind of mindset or how that mindset came about? Because I see a lot of these groups, especially here in Indianapolis, and amazing professionals like yourself belong to these groups. And I've always wondered what brought that about, or why is there such a desire to do that? Marvin,
go.
you can go.
Yeah. That's fine. I go. So it's just something that I believe that millennials realize that you don't have to do everything on your own. You don't have to be a you don't have to be the best in your profession. You don't have to try to be a know-it-all. Just as far as me sitting on the panel right now, I have an attorney sitting on the panel with me. I have an accountant sitting on the panel with me. So if I have a financial question, it would be smarter for me to be able to reach out to Brandon, or to be able to reach out if I have a legal question, to not try to Google everything myself, as everyone always tries to do, and possibly get some misinformation, but just to be able to work together. And it's like, especially whenever you have that community involvement and you have the organizations such as Indy Black Millennials or the Indianapolis Exchange, where you can work together, and you have a large group of different talents, and you have people that are rock stars that you can look on their LinkedIn, or you can just look at them professionally and see that they're taking care of business. You feel safe asking questions of them. And then as you ask questions of them, you build your community, and as they always say, iron sharpens iron, and their strength in numbers.
Thank you, Marvin. Candidate Jasmine, anything to add to that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I definitely echo Marvin's sentiment. I believe that now we're realizing that it really does take a village for us to achieve the things that we've currently achieved and what we're hoping to achieve in the future. Also, it's not solely for us personally, but also for the generations to come after us. A lot of us now, when we introduce ourselves, is I'm a first generation college student, I'm a first generation attorney, I'm a first generation whatever it is that we're currently doing. And I feel like we're trying to stop that. We're trying to stop that at this generation of like, it's not just my generation, where you have that connection, you have that community that can build you up, that can build up the future generation as well.
Powerful. Thank you. Brandon?
Yeah, I would say, definitely echo what everyone else has been saying as well. But I think one thing too that a lot of people, especially employers, have noticed is that millennials don't care as much about the work that we do, I guess. We definitely care about our professions and achieving success and things like that, but we also care about all the other aspects that affect who we are as people, and people within our communities and people within our organizations too. And so one of the mindsets that I always have is, if I'm not willing to do it for me and my people in our community, like, why should I ask, my white counterpart to do it, or someone who's not Black or whatever, to come do the same thing that I'm asking someone else to do. And so it's really important for me, and I think for a lot of the people that are within these organizations, to have that same mindset, like, let's do it for us first, and then let's also bring everyone else in to do it with us.
Powerful. Jasmine, you take us home.
Yeah, so I was just to add to what Brendan just said, like, we millennials, I think in the past it was like, hold on, you gotta wait, you gotta earn your stripes. And not saying we're not earning our stripes, but we just realized that we don't have to wait a decade to get what we need or what we want. If we go into an environment and we're not seeing what we like, we are more apt to create it. We are more apt to reach out to people to help create that. And so, we got this stigma about killing things, and it's like millennials killed this and millennials killed that, but it's like we care more about our experience than holding the status quo for the for the most part. And I'll talk more about that later. But yeah, so it's just like, we see something we don't like and we do something about it. I think we're more adept to act and make a change. And I think that's partly because the way we grew up, like most of us millennials, first off, millennials have been paying mortgages and bills for 10 years or so. We got from mid-20s all the way close to 40. And so we are a dynamic group of people who grew up in a time where, technology was just coming into the fold. So we've seen how things can change and progress, and we've grown up seeing both sides, and we're like, this can be better. So why not make it better?
Wow, that is so powerful. So two things I heard. One is, Brandon, one of my old coaches used to say this to us as players, is never expect more from your teammates than what you expect from yourself. And I think that's what you're saying is we can't talk to our white brothers and sisters about doing things that we are not willing to do for each other. So that's powerful within itself. And Jasmine, you shared doing it now, right? I think one thing we've learned through COVID is things change, things can happen fast, and we can't afford to put things off till tomorrow, right? So the millennial mentality of doing it now, I think, is rubbing off on everybody else as well. So thank you for sharing that. I just was always curious about that, and I'm glad you guys articulated that really well. So as we get into our political conversation, um, why is this election more important than 4 years ago? It seems that every 4 years, people say this is the most important election of our lifetime, right? I remember 4 years ago with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, same thing. This is the most important election. Before that, with Mitt Romney and Barack Obama, it was the same thing. This is the most important election. Why is this the most important election of our lifetime? Jasmine?
So I'm going to preface this. I'm not like a political expert by any means, but I think it kind of rolls into like three things. One, the first president after the first Black president was going to always change the landscape of what is going on in the United States for Black people. And I think that experience that has been happening over the last 4 years is not a good one. And it really has empowered so much negativity, so much hate that people thought was hidden or gone. And it's really brought it back out to light, where I was just discussing with somebody about, like Gen Z and future generations. I'm like, millennials, we got the sugar-coated racism, the institutionalized racism, the not in your face, and so much, where I felt like the generations under us, they're getting it. They're getting some of the nastiness that my parents and grandparents have seen. And so it really is a moment, the world is looking at the United States. It's not, every other election was just kind of business as usual, but the world is really looking at the United States and the soul of our nation, I think. And the next 4 years and who we elect is going to make a difference in that. I mean, the world lit on fire with protests from May and are still going till now because of what's happening in the United States. And I think that just shows you alone how important things are happening here are impacting the whole world. So that's, for me, why it's so important.
Wow. Thank you, Jasmine. Brandon?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely echo what Jasmine is saying too. And I think, this election is super important because, we're not just voting for political change, we're voting for social and racial justice and change as well. And we're dealing with two political parties. And this election is, going to be indicative of the future of our nation. And this hasn't happened, I don't think, for a long time. And I think that based on how this election pans out, at least for the presidential election pans out, it'll pretty much tell the country and tell the world what Americans find more important. Is that, social justice, racial justice, or is that, racism and money or whatever? And so depending on how it all pans out, I think that's something that's really going to be telling of the country and what's really showing that's important to us. And I think a lot of political experts are saying that, more people are tuned into this election than they have been the last election, or even the election when Obama first got elected in 2008. So it's pretty high priority for everyone, not just, in this country, but worldwide.
Thank you, Brandon. Kande?
I echo what Jasmine and Brendan have said. And I think there are so many reasons why this election is so very much important for millennials. Importantly, we've experienced so many issues, so many movements since, millennials have started growing up. I mean, there is the 01 terrorist attack, there is the 09, 08 employment downturn, currently COVID pandemic, and also affecting employment right now. And I think a lot of these issues are affecting millennials. And also the Census Bureau also earlier this year mentioned the age data that mentioned that millennials are making up more than half of the population this year. And so with that, a lot of millennials are going to be going out there. They're at the age where they can vote. And we're hoping that they do go out and vote and be able to, the movement that they've been a part of, all this protest, they're able to go out there and actually put their voice to work when it comes to voting, just like we've been doing when it comes to a lot of the issues that we've been a part of the movement for the past few years.
Thank you, Candy. Marvin?
Thank you, definitely. So just to echo what everyone has said, I definitely agree with that. Something that Jasmine touched on earlier is with it being the soul of the nation, as far as what people look at Americans as, and how people view America. We have always made progress from our history of slavery and oppression and things like that. It's always been slow progress. It's been slow, but it's definitely been progress. You can see now that with the forefront of racism, with it not being hidden, with it not being talking about you behind your back, or not being selected for a promotion, or an employer discriminate you in some type of way. All that is out in the forefront right now, and with the current president that we have, people feel like that they have the ability to be able to speak up more, to speak their views more, and to be able to be ugly, and to be able to be racist, and feel like that it's okay because the leadership is coming from the top. If it's okay for our top official, for the highest and tallest position in America being the president to do it, if he can talk to people like that, then why can't anyone else talk to people like that? And that is the example that everyone is seeing right now. That is the example that our children, our nieces, our nephews, our kids, everyone, high schoolers, middle schoolers, that is the example that everyone is seeing. And that is very, very, very important. And just as far as our image outside of the US, I have a couple friends that I talk to, and Americans, we've always thought that we were number one. We've always thought that we were the best. We've always thought that we did everything right. But it's like, just in this, our image is not that anymore. It's like, you guys are looking pretty bad right now. And it's just like, because people look at the state of our country with the whole Black Lives Matter movement, how something that happened in the United States erupted across the globe. We had the globe support, not for something that was good, but for something that was bad. It was like, yo, that's crazy. We had countries offer. We had a I can't remember the colony in Africa, but it was funny. It was one of the colonies in Africa said, if all the Black people are tired of being mistreated, come on back home and we'll offer you citizenship. It's crazy. So it's like, things are bad, and not only are things bad for Black people, but things are bad for the country with the whole COVID and how we handled it, how we're supposed to be number one with technology, number one in healthcare, how people from other countries send their students to American medical schools to be able to get the best medical education. And you get the best medical education in the United States of America, but our medical society is doing the worst as far as with the biggest countries. That needs to change.
Thank you, Marvin. So I think that's a good segue into what three key issues would you say are most important to Black millennials? Now, I know everybody doesn't agree. We're all different human beings, but in your opinion, what three key issues are important to you as a Black millennial? Let me phrase it that way. I'll start with you, Marvin.
I would say definitely one of the stigmas that any Black millennials always struggle with is changing the status quo about what people think about us and what people say about us. We are definitely motivated to prove people wrong. We are definitely motivated to show that we are not lazy, that we are educated, that we can get the job done, that we can typically do it quicker and better than even our predecessors or someone that held the job before us. So changing the status quo, I would say security is important. With a lot of our parents, they are getting older, and that they are old, and some of our parents are still old and they're still working. So not only do we want to provide financial security for ourselves, but we also want to provide it for our parents as well. As we know, nursing homes and adult living care, adult daycare, or whatever it's called, I can't remember the name of it, that's expensive, and we can't afford that. And just our status, just as far as millennials, we're next. Baby boomers are retiring, and we want to show that we got it. That if you entrust a millennial with your company or with a leadership position or with managing employees, that they'll be in good hands. We're next, and we're going to rock it.
Thank you, Marvin. Candace, so what 3 key issues would you say are important to you in this election cycle? Go ahead.
Definitely a long list, and hard to narrow down, but I would definitely say going down the list would be college debt or just education debt in general. A lot of millennials are going to school, getting degrees, higher degrees at this point, but most of us are still home living with our parents or not being able to even afford to pay those student loans back would be one thing that is very important. Also healthcare, which is also tied to the whole issue of employment. With COVID right now, we have employment downturn with the economy. A lot of us are still looking for jobs even after graduation. And without job, a lot of us can't afford healthcare because the healthcare is insurance is tied to the employment, or you're not able to be on your parents' insurance anymore because you're over the age of 26. So both of those things are things that are tied together and are very important. But definitely the last but not the least will be gun violence. It's been a huge movement with millennials, with a lot of the issues that have been going on in our community, not just in the Black community, but things that are going on in schools as well. It's not something that is affecting just millennials. It's something that could grow to become an issue later in the future with generations to come. And it's something that we're willing to combat right now just so it doesn't end up becoming a bigger issue later on.
Thank you, Candace. Brandon?
Yeah, like Kenny said, is definitely a longer list, but kind of at the top of my mind is definitely racial justice and equity, and understanding the concept of equity versus equality, because they're definitely very different. And that's obviously in society, but also in the workplace too, because that affects a lot of other areas of our lives too. Education and student loan debt, I think, is definitely something that's really high. Earlier in the call, I mentioned that the state of Black wealth. We had a discussion in NABA about this a couple of years ago, and how a lot of Black people start out, like once they graduate high school, start out with a negative net worth. And when you go to college and you have to take on these student loans in order to get an education, just to, have a chance at a better life, you're already putting yourself in more debt because you started out in debt, essentially. And then lastly, I would say financial security and economic change, and that includes healthcare as well, because I think that's always been a hot topic. And as Marvin was saying, as our parents are getting older, our grandparents are getting older, a lot of this stuff costs a lot of money, and we don't always have the ability to take care of our families the way that we want to and need to. And so having some change around those areas, I think would not only benefit us as a community, but just, the country as a whole.
Wow, thank you so much, Brandon. Jasmine?
Yeah, so I mean, when you talk about what's happening right now, what may sway somebody's vote, I think everybody said pretty much spot on what I would say. I did take a different approach to this question, because I think that the biggest challenge millennials face is, are we in or out on this system that we know is broken? We know that we're not given opportunities, and we know that no matter how much money we make, how many degrees we get, that we're still going to be in this position. And there is no peak that's going to get us out of that. And we have conversations about Black millionaires and how less than 2% of Black people are millionaires, and billionaires. There's only 5 of them in the United States for billionaires. So the 98% of us are making an average salary of $58,000 a year. And so when I say, are we in, are we out? We know that this system that we have, capitalism, feeds into a lot of these isms, racism, it feeds into homophobia, it feeds into xenophobia. And we know that it's broken. And we keep talking about reforming things that have been reformed on over and on over, and their intent was never for us to be successful. So we have this group of millennials that's like, hey, I'm trying to get my money. I'm trying to be as successful as I can. I can make this money, so can you. But then we have this other side, what people like to call radical, who are like, listen, this is broken and we need to destroy it and build again. And so as a group, I don't think we're ever going to come to a consensus on it, but I hope that when people look up, like, are we just trying to continue to survive? Are we trying to keep thriving in this current situation? Is it even possible to thrive? And realizing that success for 2% is not success for the 98%. And that to me is the challenge for Black millennials today, is how are we looking at this and that will impact, how are we looking at things now that will impact the future? So it's like, yes, right now I need good healthcare. Yes, I have student loans that I'm not even thinking about paying and I would love them wiped. But if we don't make some radical change, then my kids are going to be in the same position. Their kids are going to be in the same position. So that to me is the biggest challenge. And then if we got to do what we got to do right now, but something has to give, or we're just going to be having these same conversations 20 years from now with whatever Gen ABC is at the time.
Wow.
Yeah,
So go ahead, Brandon, you have something to add to that?
I want to follow up on that too. I think one of the struggles that we have as Black millennials is, I think now more than ever, obviously people are just open and living their full truths, right? And being who they authentically are. Whether that's you're part of the LGBT community, your religious minority, or what have you. But a lot of us are not just Black. We're Black and something else, right? A Black woman, or Black and gay, Black and a Muslim, Black or something. And I feel like the current administration has, pulled back protections or introduced shameful measures for, further marginalizing immigrants and people of color and, trans people and LGBT people and people of minority faiths. And it's like we're always forced to pick which fight do we want to fight. And it's like exhausting to try to fight all of them at once. And so I think that's one of our struggles, and no one really talks about it a lot, but it's hard being Black and something else, right? And so like you mentioned, Jasmine mentioned, just tearing it all down and building it back up. And honestly, sometimes that seems like it's the easiest thing to do, because then you can start over for all aspects of your identity, all dimensions of your identity.
Wow, this is such a powerful conversation, right? What I hear from all of you is the burden millennials are carrying, right? They talked about being first generation, and hearing that first generation college student, first generation professional. And then Marvin talked about taking care of parents, and looking out and saying, okay, I've worked so hard, I've been to school, my parents took care of me, now I want to take care of them. And then you talked about your family, like having your own family and kids, and saying, okay, what kind of world will my kids be coming into? And how do I generate enough revenue to take care of my kids and my parents? And I'm still a first generation, so I'm still learning all of this because I didn't have a playbook to follow, right? And all of this is happening, and then we get COVID, and then we have injustices, and millennials are just screaming to the world to say, look, this is not the way it should be, But I think just listening to you guys talk about this, it makes so much sense, and why millennials are looking to get things done now. People complain a lot about, well, they don't want to wait their turn and go through the ranks and the ropes. But listen to the burdens that are being carried. Who wants to wait 5-10 years to achieve what you feel you could get done now? So thank you for sharing all of those things. But traditionally, right, African Americans have normally voted for a single party. Is that changing today? Meaning this: do millennials vote for individuals based on, I may vote for a Democratic president, but I'll vote for a Republican governor because I feel what he's saying to me? Or is it basically, I'm going to vote for this party, I'm going to vote for this party all the way down to city council? Could you talk about just that mindset? Is it based on what the individual is saying, track record, or what they'll do? Or is it based just on party lines all the way across? Brandon, you can start us off.
Yeah, I do think that historically, Black people have voted along party lines or, similar to what your family has voted. But I think one thing about the millennial generation is that we're very demanding and we're also very inquisitive as well. And so over time, I think that we start to question the motives and the intent of the political leaders that we have on the ballot. And sometimes I think a lot of millennials feel that neither the Republican or the Democratic Party cares about us as a people. And I think now you may see the Republican Party more visibly trying to connect with Black millennial group because they realize that we're this untapped source of voters, essentially. But then maybe you also could think that the Democratic Party has been a bit, lackluster in their attempts to connect with the Black community and the Black millennials because they assumed that our vote was already going to be theirs. Just like when Joe Biden said that quote of, if you ain't Black if you vote for Trump. And that's honestly, how a lot of people could think or have perceived the Democratic Party to have operated over the last, years. And so now we're all questioning, what are you doing for us? And, what is your agenda? But at the end of the day, sometimes, we may have to vote on, the lesser of two evils, for lack of a better term. You may not fully identify with one party, but you have to pick and choose what's more important to you and which party aligns more with that.
Very well said. Kande?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Brendan. And I believe that now more than ever, millennials are starting to do more research and think about the issues that really matters to them and what echoes with their values more than being traditional when it comes to voting currently. The researching the policies of the different positions, people who are running for these positions. I remember having a conversation with a friend who is very big when it comes to politics, and he mentioned that he was bipartisan. And for me, I was a bit, taken aback, like, oh wow, I wasn't expecting that from you. And I think that's also that's something that a lot of millennials are starting to understand and move towards. Like, I don't have to necessarily go towards one party. I'm voting for the individual, whoever aligns more with my values and my policies.
Oh, thank you so much. Powerful. Jasmine?
So there is no political party for Black people. And that's something that sticks to, I'd literally say this probably a couple times a week. Whether Democrat, Republican, there's no party that has ever been for us. Our vote is a means to an end, as a resource to get control of assets, of land, of power. And so that's why you have people coming up with umpteen page agendas that will likely only pull out 3 key tasks, and then we're supposed to be satisfied with it. We have been beat, hung, discriminated against under both political parties, under other political parties before there was just Democrats and Republicans. So that honestly, that's how I feel about it. I feel like what Brendan said, what he said, which is voting for the lesser of two evils. I'm the type of person that, I'm be real, I usually do one party ticket vote person, and I'm okay with that because in my mind, the end goal isn't continuing in this system. It's, for me, I'm like, if we're going to do it, I might as well vote for what's less, but my desire is something completely different than what we're doing. So like, if nothing else, like, I don't think there's a political party and that is for Black people. And we have voted historically, even when you talk about when, Dixiecrats and the flip of the Republicans and such, we've always voted in what we felt like was our best interest. And we will continue to do so. And while I think millennials are more open to making that switch, I think it goes back to that: are we in, are we out, are we full in on capitalism, are we worried about ourselves versus community? And if you're more worried about community, then I feel like you're less likely to go look at, flipping lines, honestly. So that's, my input.
Sister Jasmine, you started this whole thing saying that you weren't political, but you over here preaching, right?
Well,
you're going in.
Right.
Like, well, being Black is not political. You know what I mean? It is
That's
just
what
like,
I
it
thought.
is just living.
Marvin, can you take us home?
Jasmine showed up to the conversation like the person say that they don't play sports and then they run it and then they mess around and run you for all your money at the end. So
Actually, about Black people. That's
this
it.
is my first time. I ain't never done this before. Definitely. So to answer the question, I definitely voted today, this morning, stood in the line 2 hours and 40 minutes down at the city county building. And just transparency, whenever I was a young, uneducated voter, as everyone says, go vote, get out and vote. I didn't know what I was voting for. I didn't know who I was voting for. You see commercials, you hear negative ads on the radio, you see them on the TV. Nowadays, you have them on social media. So you may be able to research a candidate a little bit based off of what's on your social media, or if you actually want to be an informed voter, you're actually going to look it up, or you're going to tune into the Republican or the Democratic National Convention, or you're just going to have your eyes and your ears open, and you're just going to look. Whenever I was young, I did vote a straight party ticket. I voted for the president, and every now and again in the primaries, I would vote for the mayor. That wasn't something that was important because it wasn't. It didn't get as big as coverage as what the national elections do, but it is something that I did. This time, whenever I voted today, I did not vote a straight party ticket. I voted based off of who I thought was going to be better for the positions, who I thought was going to be able to restore justice and honor to the positions, not only just presidentially, but locally as well, with our attorney general, with our governor, with our senator, in which we have on the ballots, and just based off of who's actually done what they said they were going to do. I mean, it's just like right now, everyone makes promises and everyone sells you the egg with the golden goose, but who actually delivers that? Who's actually able to get the things done that they said that they were going to be able to do, and who aligns with what I see is what's best for my community and what's best for the area I live in and what's best for the future. That's how I voted. So I think that millennials are going away. I think millennials are definitely that generation. To answer your question, is definitely going away from being straight Republican or being straight Democratic to where we are more bipartisan, which is actually what our democracy was made for, not to be one side or another, and not to be super loyal to one side or another, but to be able to do what's best for our country. If you feel like that right now that what's going on in our country is best for our country, I would like to have a conversation with you, and you may need a mental check, but if you feel like that is best, then vote for it. If not, then vote for something different, but don't just vote for something different. Why is something different better? And why do you think that it's better? Does it align with you and your values as a person and us as a country? So I think millennials are that generation that is going to break that mold, that it's just not going to be safe for Black people to vote Democrat, because as Jasmine said, that is absolutely not true. When people say that the Democrats are for Black people, my question is, did you know that whenever Black people started out that we were Republicans? Did you know that?
So, I mean, this is powerful. So we're 6 days away, right? Like I said, I can't believe after all this time, we're 6 days away. What are you going to do by yourself or with your organizations? You guys are obviously leaders. There's no doubt in my mind, just listen to you talk. And leaders have the ability to raise up others, right? How do you get other people to come out and vote? How do we make sure that at the end of this, come November 4th, we don't look and say like what was done in 2016 and so much percentage of Black people didn't vote? What are you doing to get people out to vote? Or do you feel like that's your responsibility to get people out to vote? Sister Jasmine, you get us started.
Okay, so I can speak to what Indy Black Millennials has been doing. So over the last 3 weeks, we've been partnering with Go Vote Indy. who is a nonpartisan organization that's focused on getting people registered to vote, and they'll also be providing rides to people to the polls the day of the election. So we've been putting out social media content, and I interviewed some individuals just to hear people's personal stories and experiences on voting, kind of asking the same questions that you and I, you're asking us today, and just sharing those stories so people can hear from everyday folks living in the city and not some politician, and trying to motivate people. So that was a 3-week thing. The last video went out on Indy Black Millennial Go Vote Indy social media today. Also, the men of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated are doing a Stroll to the Polls event this Saturday, and Radio One is hosting a block party. As you know, wait times have been super long. So Radio One's gonna make sure you have some entertainment while you're voting downtown at the city council building. So we're gonna be there from like 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. To get people out and make it not so insufferable while you wait. So that's some of the things that we've been doing, and just also encouraging conversations. If you know somebody who is kind of on the fence, try. Worst thing they can do is say no, but you never know what words may help them, motivate them.
Thank you, Jasmine. Brandon?
Yeah. So during this election season, NABA Indy, at least, and I know NABA chapters across the country have been doing different things as well, but one of the things that we wanted to do this year was to make sure that we kind of reached out to other Black organizations in the city. So like the Indy Black Millennials, the Urban League, and now we're on with the Recorder as well, and putting on joint events and really just merging together our populations of members to, enlighten people and educate people, because that's very important. I think there's a lot of, voter registration drives that have been going on throughout the city. But that's just one of the steps. And it's one thing to register people, but like, how are you going to get them to the polls too? And if people don't understand politics, which a lot of people don't, that doesn't mean that they're going to vote just because they're registered, right? So we felt that was really important to just highlight the education piece of it. And so, over the next 6 days, what we plan to do is resend out some of the previous communications and resources that we have been sending to our people about voter education, to make sure people are continuing to be informed. People know where polling sites are. People know how to check their registration status. I know we sent a bunch of emails out about that already, but we can send another one. And just making sure that people are ready for next week and continue that conversation too. And then also one of the initiatives that we did as an organization was a polling, volunteer experience, And so a lot of us signed up to either work the polls or to count the ballots afterwards. And I know some other organizations are doing that around the city as well. So we'll have some of our board members and some of our general members out here working the polls on election day and then counting the next day.
Marvin, talk a little bit about what the exchange is doing.
Definitely. So one of the things that you can definitely do is the most simple step is just ask. Jasmine, are you voting? Brandon, are you voting? It's just ask your friends and ask your family members, ask the people that are closest to you. You will be surprised. Out of my closest circle, the people that are close to me knows that I am involved in this political journey, just to make sure that everyone's voice is heard. My own father was not voting until we had a conversation about it. 3 of my first cousins was not voting until we had a conversation about it. One of my cousins is still not voting. I'm still trying to convince him, but it's just asking. It's just literally asking. Do you plan on voting? When do you plan on voting? Do you have a voting plan? Letting people know that if you plan to vote early, it's long lines. It is an average of 2 to 4 hours to vote early in Indianapolis. And then after that, if you plan on voting on election day, that line is going to be extremely long. So it's just letting them know, but it just starts with asking, just a simple conversation. And then after you have that simple conversation, as they say in the South, you get more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. If someone says that they're not voting, don't attack them. Don't say, why are you not voting? Why are you not voting? You have to vote. This is the most important election of your life. You have to. That's not how you're going to get people to vote. Just find out the reasons why and see if you can just have a gentleman conversation about it, or a civil conversation about voting, and encourage them to vote, and possibly even have to go with them. So that's that. As far as with the exchange, oh man, we've done a bunch of events. We had an event at Cafe, which was a voters registration and a census drive to be able to. It was one of the last few days to be able to get your census counted, to be able to get your you counted for the census of voters registration to be able to drive. Jasmine, as you said, Go Vote Indy is an absolutely amazing organization that does provide free rides to the polls. They're absolutely free. They are still taking volunteers. If you want to sign up to be a driver, you can no longer sign up to get a ride. But they also, I seen something posted on their page today that they're working something out with Hertz Rent a Car, that they plan on renting free cars on November the 3rd. You can definitely go to Go Vote's Indy page to be able to check that out. One of the things that we are doing at the exchange, our last fellowship class that we call ourselves Live 5, we will be at Lucas Oil Stadium on November the 3rd working the polls. So if you have not voted, you definitely want to come by, say hi, just to be able to bring some life to us. Don't bring the drama, but if you definitely want to just bring some life and some energy, definitely come. We will be at Lucas Oil Stadium on November the 3rd. I just got an email asking us if we're available because Lucas Oil is going to open up their location this weekend. If we're available Saturday and Sunday to work as well. I haven't answered that email yet, but we're gonna see about that one. But I'll definitely be there on November the 3rd. But it's just something that we are doing. It's just volunteering your time, your assets, and your resources. Just asking is the very first thing that you have to do. Just ask and just see. As far as the Indianapolis Exchange, we are definitely involved with just making sure that your voice is heard. Your voice is your most powerful asset that you have as a United States citizens. All of our resources get allocated based off of how we vote. So people say it all the time that your vote has power. Your vote absolutely has power, and you need to make sure that you exercise it.
Amen. So I want to pose a question to the group as we wind down. So it's November 10th. Results are out. The person you voted for got into office. How do we work together? What do we do to hold people accountable that we voted into office? How do you measure that to make sure that that person is delivering on those promises? I think that's something that as a community, we haven't done a really good job of. We've got people into office in the past and we look back 2, 3, 4 years later and it's still the same situation. So what's going to be different this time around? Kende?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think the first thing that we need to realize is that this individuals in these political positions work for us. Like we are the one, they are responsible for making sure that our needs are met. And there are different avenues for us to make sure that we keep them accountable in those positions. Calling, emailing, sending letters, whenever you know that sometimes we think big, like, oh, this issue is not being resolved is because the president is not doing his job. Locally, we also have to make sure that we're keeping those in the political positions locally accountable as well. It's not just on the national level. So when you know that your senators, when you know that your reps are not doing their job, make sure that you're emailing them, you're calling them to let them know, like, hey, there are certain areas in my community that their needs are not being met. And I know that it is your job to make sure that these needs are being met. Making sure that you're reaching out, you're having conversations with the right people. We talk about community a lot. So making sure that we're encouraging our community to hold them accountable as well.
Thank you. Brandon?
Yeah, I definitely echo what Kenny was saying as well. I think a lot of people think that the presidential election is the election that affects your livelihood the most. And people don't understand that it isn't. Like, it definitely has an impact, but you know, what's happening at the local level is very important to know about and be engaged with as well. And so, you know, definitely hold the people accountable. A lot of these meetings that go on, you know, are open to the public to attend and listen to the conversations and ask your questions live and whatnot. So definitely encourage people to go and ask the questions of the people that are supposed to be representing us and taking care of us. And again, if they're not doing what they need to do, then maybe next election cycle, you know, really pay attention to the people's agendas and people that you genuinely feel like are going to be the right people to lead our country, our states, our cities.
Thank you. Marvin?
definitely echo into what everyone has said, and just to be able to add on to what Kennedy said, definitely calling, emailing, showing up to the office. Protesting is the very first step. That is the first step. And after you protest, then you should write a letter, then you should call. And whenever a general election comes up, as Brendan said, of making sure that they have done what they said they were going to do, or if you don't believe that they have, then as we've said before, your vote is your voice. So you can vote them out. But even before that, just making sure, it seems like that, I'm not on Twitter a lot, but it seems like that a lot of the politicians and things like that use Twitter a lot. So you can actually be able to see exactly what they're thinking and about what their policies are and how they feel, and promises and campaign promises that they are making. And if it's things that they're not doing, then you, as everyone else does, screenshot it, put it on your social media to be able to increase your voice. And there are strength in numbers. And we have three different Black organizations represented on this panel tonight. Join one of the professional organizations and hold your professional organization accountable to be able to represent you. That's what we're here for.
Powerful. Thank you. Jasmine?
Yep. So I think to add to that, we first need to utilize, like, we have community leaders, right? And whether you look at our organizations as leaders, but even outside of that, there are neighborhood associations. For example, I grew up on the Far East Side and did the Far East Side Community Council for a bit before I moved. But they voted people in leadership that were attending the meetings, that were, entrenched in the community to speak for the Far East Side. Then you have those people that you trust that are of community that are going to our leaders and holding them accountable. And then it's so much more powerful if not only are those, community councils, and then you get Indy Black Millennials, and you get NABA, and you get the exchange together. And now we are coming together as leaders, and we're coming up with a plan of saying, this is what, as a community, we need to happen. And so if the community puts community leaders that they trust in charge, and then of course you can do your own to call and email and such, but then you move on to, those community leaders that you trust holding people accountable. I think the biggest lesson millennials can take from generations before us is their ability to organize so effectively and to act so effectively to impact change. It took time, it took trust and leadership. And so I think if we can get there, yes, it's great to email a person yourself, but if you can get, what is it? I think it's like 7,000 people, I think, on 42nd and Post area alone. Imagine getting 7,000 people blowing up somebody's inbox. Or you have a group of people that's really representing these people, and we're all aligned. So even if I'm on the north side, they're on the west side, east side, south side, we have a plan together. And it's important because that plan, it will be coming from community. It's not coming from a celebrity. It's not coming from somebody who is not day in, day out in the position and knows the life that you're living currently. And that is going to be the change. And I think, that's so important for us in holding people accountable. But if we all keep acting individually, then some incremental change is going to happen, and it's going to impact some people over here, but not the people over there. So I think community leaders need to come more, and community has to say, these leaders in my community are the people we put there and we trust, not somebody coming from somewhere else, or that has ulterior motives.
I'll venture to say that after today, right, it's evident that you guys are our community leaders. I mean, just listen to you guys talk today and express yourselves and articulate your views in such a professional and to the point way. I truly appreciate that. I do want to give a big shout out to Halo App, another millennial entrepreneur in our city that's just doing wonderful things. Taylor Simpson and Ariana Simpson, for organizing the technology for this and organizing the technology for a lot of what the recorder does virtually. So a lot of times people are doing things behind the scenes that nobody knows, but a big shout out to Taylor and Ariana for all their hard work to organize these events and all the events the recorder puts on virtually. After listening to you today, right, people are saying, wow, I want to play on their team, right? um, People want to play with good players, right? So please talk to people about how they can join NABA, Indy Black Millennials, or the exchange, and give them the details to join. So Marvin, could you start off and just let people know how they could be a part of your team, because you're an all-star, right? I want to play with you.
I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate that. As I said earlier, the Indianapolis Exchange is part of the Indianapolis Urban League. We have our general body meeting that anyone can attend, members or non-members, people that are interested, people that have opinions, people that have a problem. If you just want to network, if you just want to come and just be around positive, like-minded, young professional individuals, we have our meetings. It is the third Monday of the month from 6 to 8. What we used to do is we used to go to Stack Pickle. Unfortunately, Stack Pickle is went out of business right now, and we're not meeting in person. So we're gonna have to find a new Black establishment to be able to go to and socialize afterward. But you could definitely go to the Indianapolis Urban League page, and you can sign up to be a member. You can sign up to be a member where you just get your information in, and once you sign up to be a member, then it takes a $50 donation. It's $50 once a year, a minimum of $50 donation once a year. But even not, if that, you can go to the Indianapolis Urban League website and just download our calendar, and you can come to the events. You can come to our events. You can come to anything that we have. It is open to the public, black, white, brown, green, yellow, blue, 18 to 80 years old. It doesn't matter how old you are or what color you are, anything like that. If you're over 40 and you want to participate, we're going to be starting a new organization called the GIL, or we would recommend you for the Indianapolis Urban League as well. But for all the millennials out there, you can definitely be part of the exchange.
Thank you.
Now, and of course, we have all of our social media pages. Facebook. It's Facebook the Exchange, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and all of them.
Brother Brandon, just listening to you today, right? I want you doing my books, right? People out there like, who is this brother? Where he come from? But how do people? I know NABA is a different professional organization, but I'm not sure how you do business, or do you work for a company? Do you take on clients? How do people get with you to get knowledge from you or work with you? Could you just share that information with the audience?
Yeah, definitely. I mentioned a little bit earlier too, like NABA is a membership nonprofit organization. And so anyone can join to be a member of NABA. There are membership dues that vary depending on, if you are a student versus a professional, you want to become a lifetime member, what have you. But all of those amounts are on the website. And to join the organization, you just go to nabainc.org/join, or just go to nabainc.org and you can find it really easily. But once you do that, you join the national organization and you join the local organization if there's a chapter in your city. It'll have you pick which city you live in. It'll tell you whether there's a chapter there or not. And then once that happens, we get notified that, we have new members on our membership listing and stuff like that. And so we can reach out to you directly that way. Or you can go to our website, which is also on our Facebook page. So if you go to Facebook and look up NABA Indianapolis, you'll find our Facebook. And then our link to our website is on there. There's also our email address is on there, which is info@indynaba.org. Usually people will send emails directly to that, which come to my inbox and to our VP's inbox. And we will add you to our distribution list, which is how we communicate most of our events and our programming that we have coming up. So like most organizations, we're not really doing anything in person this year, but we do have an event coming up in December that will be like a CPE certified professional development event. So people that need continuing education will be able to get some points towards that as well.
Tell people again what NABA stands for again, in case they didn't.
NABA stands for the National Association of Black Accountants. And while accounting is in our name, we essentially represent all of the Black professionals that are in accounting, finance, consulting, IT, any other like-minded business professions. So we have members that, serve all different types of professions that are part of NABA.
Thank you so much. Candy and Jasmine, anytime I come around Indie Black Millennials, I leave smarter, right? You guys do a really wonderful job, high level of professionalism, really classy and to the point. I appreciate your honesty and transparency when when I come around you guys, and I truly appreciate. Can you talk to the audience about how they can become members of Indie Black Millennials or join or keep up with what you guys are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can, well, first off, I'll start with social. It's we're on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. It's just Indie Black Millennials. So you can find us that way. We also created a Facebook group called Indie Black Professionals. And so that is just, again, a networking group where a lot of people go in and they're sharing opportunities, they're sharing events, they're asking people what's the latest and greatest, what's your favorite spots. You don't have to be Black, you don't have to be a millennial. This is an opportunity for Black professionals to come together. So whether you want to join the Facebook group or join our organization, we welcome all, and it's just millennial driven. You can go and join our organization. It's absolutely free by visiting indieblackmillennials.com. And when you get there, you can go to become a member and fill out the form. Some of the things you'll experience is we have a lot of companies that are specifically looking for Black professionals. So they reach out to us. It goes directly out to our network of folks for some really awesome job opportunities. We also host events that are talking about issues that are impacting our community. We're of course doing everything virtually now, but when we do get to a place where we can meet face to face, we do in-person happy hours, networking events, and things like that. And we would love for you to come out and meet new people. So again, you can go to indieblackmillennials.com and go to become a member and check out the site and read more about us. We also have an awesome blog where a lot of our members get the chance to post. And then, hey, if you're not a person who's like, hey, I want to join, but you want to keep up with us, again, check out our social. Or if you have a topic that you feel like you're an expert in and you would love to work on an event together, please reach out to us. We're always looking for experts on panels and people to lead events as well. So social, Indie Black Millennials, and website, indieblackmillennials.com.
Thank you. Anything to add, Candy?
Okay.
Anything to add to that, Candy?
Jasmine's done a very great job of telling us about how to join Indie Black Millennial. One thing that I just wanted to add with the conversation that we're having is for us to go out and use the social media, just like we're able to join these different organizations to also get the word out. And as Marvin mentioned earlier, we're asking questions. I've devoted a lot of people that are around us in our community are not using social media because they're a lot older than us. So making sure that they're also aware of what's going on and to also go out and vote.
Thank you so much. Again, unbelievable panel. I'm just glad to listen to you guys. I've learned so much from this panel today. I know so many people were looking at questions from Facebook. So many people are engaging and learning from what you guys have to say. I do want to challenge all of you and your groups. The Indianapolis Recorder, again, is 125 years old, has served our community for 125. It's a Black-owned business, right? I'm not sure I don't know how many businesses, if any, that we have in our city that's been around for 125 years. As we go into 2021, your members, your friends, people listening should all go out and get a subscription. You can get a digital subscription. I know millennials don't read hard copy papers, so you can get a digital subscription. But sometimes I think some of the low-hanging fruit things that we can do to support folks in our community, sometimes we'll miss that. And getting a subscription, all of us get a subscription to support the paper and give us a voice, not once a week or once a month or frequently, but 24/7. And I know a lot of you and your groups also write articles in the paper as well. So just want to say that to our community as a whole and to you guys and your group, that we should all come together to continue to support the Recorder so we continue to have a platform to express ourselves like we do tonight. So thank you so much. Thank you for everybody for tuning in. This has been a wonderful conversation. 6 days. Hopefully we'll regroup and bring you guys back in 2 weeks and see how you feel about the results from the election. So thank you so much, and have a blessed night. And again, keep working hard.